Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're exploring a deeply sensitive, absolutely crucial, and honestly often misunderstood intersection: the relationship between mental health and faith. You know, for many people, navigating a mental health diagnosis is incredibly challenging all on its own. But trying to do so within a faith community, well, that can sometimes add whole new layers of confusion, guilt, and even isolation. So we're going to unpack the data, look at how classical theology actually supports modern clinical care, and explore how we can finally bridge the gap between the pews and professional help.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Why is mental health still such a massive taboo subject inside our churches? Because despite all the strides we've made in cultural awareness regarding mental health, a lot of congregations are still caught in this culture of silence. Right now, people are sitting in the pews every single week, carrying immense psychological burdens, yet feeling completely unable to speak up. They're wrestling with anxiety, depression, or trauma, and quietly wondering if their struggle is somehow just a reflection of a flawed spiritual life. But the desire for change is overwhelmingly clear. Just think about this number from Lifeway research: 65%. That is the percentage of church-going family members of those with mental illness who desperately want their church to talk openly about it. They are literally begging for this conversation to happen. They want the silence broken because the lack of open dialogue just leaves their loved ones feeling incredibly isolated and ashamed.
But here is the stark contrast. While families are pleading for openness, 49% of pastors report that they rarely or never speak to their congregations about mental illness in sermons or large groups. This creates a massive disconnect. It's what researchers are calling the silent crisis. Because when the leadership doesn't actively talk about depression or anxiety, the congregation implicitly learns that, well, these are just topics we don't bring to God or to each other.
Now, what's really interesting about this data is the real-world impact of that silence. It's alarming, actually, because that silence sometimes turns into terribly misguided advice. Data shows that 30% of churchgoers who seek help for a mental health condition end up encountering negative, completely counterproductive feedback. These harmful interactions usually fall into a few categories: outright abandonment, dismissing the medical condition as purely demonic activity, or viewing the disorder simply as a lack of faith or some unconfessed sin.
Section 1. Emotions versus clinical disorders.
To really untangle all this, we first need to re-educate ourselves a bit. Experiencing powerful, even painful emotions is just an inescapable part of being human. I mean, even Jesus experienced severe emotional distress, literally sweating drops of blood due to profound anxiety. Let's look closely at the language used in the Bible regarding anxiety, because it's incredibly revealing. One Greek root word often translated as fear or anxiety is deos. Intriguingly, it shares a root with the word for doubt or to. It describes a situation that's uncertain. It can go either way. When our brains flag an uncertain outcome to keep us safe, that's deos. It's a natural, entirely healthy warning system, not a sin.
But then, there is another word, phobos. Now this describes a ramped-up, suffocating fear. It's about feeling completely overwhelmed by panic, having that desperate urge to just escape or run away. When Jesus commands his followers to fear not during a terrifying storm, he's actually using the word phobos. He isn't reprimanding them for their natural human vulnerability, he is offering them reassurance against suffocating panic. He's essentially saying, you don't need to run, I am right here with you.
So we absolutely must differentiate between everyday situational worry and a true clinical disorder. A natural human emotion is situational, right? It acts as a healthy warning system that spikes up and then naturally resolves. A clinical anxiety disorder, however, is a constant physiological fight or flight state. It's when the brain's alarm system gets physically stuck in the on position. This isn't a failure of willpower. It's a persistent condition that comes from living in a biologically broken world.
Section 2. Overcoming spiritual stigma.
So the crucial point is that understanding this biological reality helps us end spiritual shame. Stigma happens when we take complex, clinical, physiological disorders and reduce them down to mere spiritual feelings. It was summarized so beautifully by Focus on the Family. To say that the person with an anxiety disorder should simply trust God more is like telling the woman with a broken bone that she should just have greater faith and she will be well. Think about that. We would never shame someone for seeking a doctor to set a broken arm, right? We have to extend that exact same grace and logic to the brain.
Section 3. Integrating faith and therapy.
The great news is we do not have to choose between classical theology and professional clinical care. In fact, they work brilliantly together to treat the whole person. And this brilliantly illustrates the point. Classical theologian St. Thomas Aquinas framed this perfectly when he said, "Grace does not destroy nature, but perfects it." Think about what that actually means for mental health. Medical and therapeutic interventions don't replace God's grace. Instead, they restore and tune our physical nature, our literal brains and nervous systems, so that our spirits actually have the capacity to thrive and fully receive that grace.
Let's apply this logic directly to psychiatric medication. Taking medication to stabilize a chemical imbalance in the brain, it is exactly like taking insulin for a malfunctioning pancreas. The brain is a biological organ, guys, and it's subject to physiological dysfunction just like any other part of the body. Treating it medically is completely biblical. Even the Apostle Paul advised his protege, Timothy, in 1 Timothy 5:23, to use a physical remedy, wine, for his frequent stomach ailments. Plain and simple, God uses medicine. And we're also seeing some truly incredible results with treatments like RCBT, or religiously integrated cognitive behavioral therapy. This seamlessly merges modern clinical techniques with scriptural practices. So for example, the clinical concept of cognitive restructuring, that gets framed as the biblical concept of renewing the mind. Mindfulness exercises are replaced with Christian contemplative prayer, which by the way has been clinically shown to regulate the nervous system. It combines active gratitude and community involvement to offer a truly holistic, faith-aligned path to healing. Section 4, creating a healing ecosystem. Let's see how this builds into something we can really use. How do we take all of this research, theology, and clinical data and actually change the culture of our churches? We build a healing ecosystem with a really clear, actionable plan. Step 1, destigmatize from the top down through pastoral acknowledgement. Just a pastor casually mentioning depression or anxiety from the pulpit instantly gives the congregation permission to heal. Step 2, implement highly trained lay care, like Stephen Ministry, so the heavy burden doesn't fall solely on the pastoral staff. And Step 3, host evidence-based peer support groups, like the Mental Health Grace Alliance or the Sanctuary Course, to provide safe, ongoing connection for folks. Which leaves us with this final thought. You do not need to be a licensed psychiatrist or a theologian to make a real difference here. Sometimes the most Christ-like thing you can possibly do is simply sit with someone in their pain, without trying to fix them and without trying to quote a Bible verse at them. So I leave you with this question to ponder today. How can you be a safe space for someone struggling with their mental health right now? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to take this knowledge straight back to your own communities.